Jaya Kunj Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari, Yashodanandana Braj Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Braj Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. I will share my screen to read from Prabhupada Lilamrit. Oh. Is screen 2. Okay. According to these gentlemen, economic conditions of Indian people deteriorated on account of their too much faith in God. And the sooner they forget about everything about Godhead, it is better for them. But we cannot agree with this atheist conclusion of such up-to-date gentlemen devoid of the sense of Godhead. Abhay argued that although independent India was now educating her citizen in godless materialism, her economic conditions were not improving. Many Indians did not even have the bare necessities of life. He cited that 120 120K were unemployed in Delhi. Some of the well-posted government servants or some of the fortunate businessmen may feel themselves happy, but 90% of their brother citizens do not know how to meet the both ends together, and therefore the economic condition is definitely not satisfactory. He quoted former United States President Harry S. Truman as saying that national independence means that the citizens should have a comfortable life. So if that were the case, said Abhay, where was India's independence? His point was that all attempts at happiness and prosperity are unlawful as long as they fail to recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Lord. An atheistic civilization could never produce peace. In Progressive Ambitions and Unsatiated Lust, Abhay wrote, there is no dearth of money, but there is dearth of peace in the world. The whole human energy Having been diverted to this money-making business, it has certainly increased the cheap money-making capacity of the total population. But the result is that such unrestricted and unlawful inflation of money has created a bad economy and has enabled us to manufacture huge, costly weapons for destroying the result of such cheap money-making business. The authorities of big money-making countries, instead of enjoying peace, are now engaged in making important plans as to how they can save themselves from the modern destructive weapons. And as a matter of fact, a huge sum of money is being thrown into the sea for making an experiment on such dreadful weapons. Such experiments are being carried out not only at huge cost, but also at cost of many poor lives, binding thereby such nations in the laws of karma. Those who unlawfully accumulated money would find it snatched away by taxes for wars and other agents of illusory nature in the shape of medical practitioners, lawyers, tax collectors, societies, constitutions, so-called sadhu, famines, earthquakes, and many such calamities. A miser who hesitated to purchase a copy of Back to Godhead by the dictation of illusory nature spent up to 20,000 for a week's alignment and died at the end. A similar thing happened when a man who refused to spend a paisa for the service of the Lord spoiled 30,000 rupees in litigations affairs between members of the home. That is the law of nature. A worker in a New Delhi post office, noticing the title of the magazines Abhay was sending abroad, took the opportunity to argue his atheistic opinions with Abhay. Srila Prabhupada, the postmaster, was an Arya Samaji, and he was talking to me about the paper Back to Godhead. He raised the question, if we do our duty nicely, then what is the use of worshipping God? If we become honest, if we become moral, if we do not do anything which is harmful to anyone, if we act in this way, then what is the need of this? Because our paper's name was Back to Godhead. He was indirectly protesting. What is the use of propagating this philosophy of Godhead if we act nicely? That is the Arya Samaji's view, how to avoid God. So I replied that if one is not God conscious, he cannot be a moralist, he cannot be truthful, he cannot be honest. This is our point of view. You study the whole world just on these 3 points: morality, honesty, and dutifulness. But if he is not God conscious, he cannot continue such things. To revive all these good qualities in society, you first have to invoke good God consciousness. A Delhi man, noticing Abhay distributing Back to Godhead, remarked, "Where is Godhead? Can you show me God?" Abhay replied to the challenge, but he has pondered a deeper reply as he moved throughout the city during the day. On returning to his room, he began an article. Where is Godhead? Is it possible to see him? In these secretariat buildings in New Delhi, there is an inscription on the stone that liberty does not descend upon a people, but it has to be earned before it can be enjoyed. Actually, this is the fact, and we have seen it, that much sacrifice had to be rendered by the people of India before they could gain Swaraj. But in the matter of Godhead, some irresponsible people ask, where is God? Can you show me? Have you seen God? These are some of the questions put forward by some irresponsible men who want to have everything very cheap. If for attaining a temporary false sense of liberty in this material world, so much labor and sacrifice have to be requisitioned, is it possible to see Godhead, the absolute truth, so cheaply? To see God means complete liberty from all conditions. But is Godhead an attending orderly so that he may be present at my command? The atheist, however, demands this demands like this as if Godhead is his paid servant, and he thinks that Godhead is an imaginary thing. Otherwise, he would have appeared before us as soon as the demand to see him is made. Mataji, should I continue?
You can stop here, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Excuse me. Let's start with today's verse from Canto 4, chapter 22, verse number 30. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Tahiriyat Nashtaprayesa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Me too. So I'll start the verse recitation. Kachinaha kushalam natha indriyartha vedinam Vyasanavapa etasmin patitanam swakarmabhi. Kachina kushalam natha indriyartha vedinam Vyasanavapa etasmin patitanam swakarmabhi. Kachina kushalam natha indriyartha vedinam Vyasanavapa etasmin patitanam swakarmabhi. Hare Krishna, if anybody would like to recite.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranam.
Dandot Pranam, Prabhuji.
Kaschinna kushalam indriyartha vedinam Vyasana vapaitasmin patitanam sakarmabhi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I am
Thank
also
you.
trying.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Kachinna kushalam natha indriyartha vedinam dashana bhavo etasmin patitanam sakarmavihi.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Kachinna kushalam natha indriyartha vedinam Dashana vapoye tasmin patitanam swakarmabhi.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am also trying.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Kachinnang kushalang natha indriyarthartha vedinam vyasana vapo etasmin patitanang sakarmavi. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, we'll go to the next part. Word to word translation. Kachit, whether, na, are, kushalam, good fortune, natha, O master, indriyartha, sense gratification as the ultimate goal of life, arthavedinam, persons who understand only sense gratification, vyasana, illness, avape, got, estamen, in this material existence, patitanam, those who are fallen, swakarmabhi, by their own ability. Translation. and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai. Prithu Maharaj inquired from the sages about persons entangled in this dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, whose only aim is sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? Anyone would like to read the purport?
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Carry on.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada is here. Sorry. Maharaj Prithu did not ask the Kumara about the good fortune, but the Kumaras are always auspicious by dint of their life in celibacy. Since they are always engaged in the path of liberation, there was no question of ill fortune. In other words, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are strictly following the path of spiritual advancement, are always fortunate. The question was asked by Maharaja Prithu for his own sake, since he was in the position of the Grihastha and in charge of royal authority. Kings are not only Grihasthas who are generally absorbed in sense gratification, but are sometimes employed to kill animals in hunting because they have to practice the killing art. Otherwise, it is very difficult for them to fight their enemies. Such things are not auspicious. 4 kinds of sinful activities associating with women for illicit sex, eating meat, intoxication, and gambling are allowed for the Kshatriyas. For political reasons, sometimes they have to take to these sinful activities. Kshatriyas do not refrain from gambling. One vivid example is the Pandavas. When the Pandavas were challenged by the opposite party, Duryodhana, to gamble and risk their kingdom, they could not refrain. And by that gambling, they lost their kingdom and their wife was insulted. Similarly, the Kshatriyas cannot refrain from fighting if challenged by the opposite party. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj, taking consideration of all these facts, inquired whether there is any auspicious path. Grihastha life is inauspicious because Grihastha means consciousness for sense gratification. And as soon as there is sense gratification, one's position is always full of dangers. This material world is said to be padam padam yat vipadam natesham. Dangerous in every steps. Bhagavatam 10:14-58. Everyone in this material world is struggling hard for sense gratification. Clearing all this point, Maharaja Prithu inquired from 4 Kumaras about the fallen conditioned souls who are rotting in this material world due to their past bad or inauspicious activities. Is there any possibility for those auspicious spiritual life in this world? The word Indriya Artha Vedinam is very significant. It indicates a person whose only aim is to satisfy the senses. They are also described as Patitanam or fallen. Only one who stops all activities for sense gratification is considered to be elevated. Another significant word is Shakarmavi. One becomes fallen by dint of his own past activities, bad activities. Everyone is responsible for his fallen condition because of his own activities. When activities are changed to devotional service, one's auspicious life begins. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Om Jnana-timirandasya Dhyananjana-shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swarupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Vidyaspya Swamiti Namane. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatade Satarvane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Before we start, I'll put the entire slide in front of you. It's okay, maybe ignore the slide first. The Prabhupada has mentioned about that when one takes up the devotional service, the auspiciousness begins. So what he means by what is the meaning of auspicious here in this verse? So in this verse, we are not talking about anything pious that is auspicious, but anything that is spiritual, that is connected to Krishna is auspicious. And anything that is, even though it's pious, but it's not spiritual or connected to Krishna, is not auspicious. And from the purport, Prithu Maharaj has pointed out few obstacles that a Kshatriya and him being a Grihastha, of course, he is being quite humble to say he was at a very advanced stage, but usually he is pointing out the obstacle that a Kshatriya and a Grihastha have to reach the real goal of spirituality. And he has pointed out few problems with Kshatriya, that in today's life, because people are not living the original or Devi Varnashrama, they may say that, oh, I'm a Kshatriya or I'm a Grihastha, so it is okay for us to indulge in sense gratification, because people in Varnashrama are allowed, as per Kshatriya, they are allowed to kill animals. So is that correct? So that's what we should understand, the difference between materialistic Varnashrama of how people misunderstand it and the original Varnashrama. So I'll read from the table that in materialistic Varnashrama, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.8, Sutta Goswami, in that purpose, Prabhupada has mentioned that Sutta Goswami criticizes that we would call materialistic Varnashrama the occupational activities a person performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. This verse applies to the caste system of the modern India. Although the caste system has some basis in religious tradition, for most of its practitioners, the primary motivation is respectable social standing and material enjoyment, either in this life or the next, rather than service to the Supreme Lord. So we see that the main purpose for today's society who goes into the caste system is only for their mere respect in the society. But the original purpose was the service to the Supreme Lord, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Vishnu is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There is no other way to satisfy the Lord. as it is said in Vishnu Purana 3.8.9. Parashara Muni is referring to the original Varnashram system. Its essential feature is the deliberate organization of society so that the members of each class perform activities that help members of other classes in their spiritual advancement. So even though one class is not very spiritually advanced, it helps them to gradually advance to a higher stage. So it is the materialistic Varnashram, people just follow by birth without any qualification, but actually the original Varnashram was not by birth, only Devi Varnashrama. The original system created by the Lord can satisfy the Lord because everyone can make spiritual progress from different stages. So in summary, we can see that the more materially attached one who were in the Shudras, Varnas, or in Grihastha life, they can renounce the fruits of their labor and they can advance higher. And of course, the others who are at an advanced stage, they can they are progressing anyway towards the towards reaching the supreme goal. So in Devi Varnashrama Dharma, the Lord gets satisfied that he sees all his children are advancing towards him according to their capacity at that moment. And in the purport, by reading this purport, if somebody gets a doubt that, oh, Kshatriyas can eat meat, so then we can also eat meat, or somebody else can argue that, oh, it must be okay to eat meat because Pandavas were Kshatriyas. But that is not the case, because in the case of Pandavas, it was, or if any Kshatriyas, in that time, Kshatriyas were allowed to kill only for practicing their martial arts. So they were not killing for their own sense enjoyment. That was part of their work. But they also atoned for it, for those sinful reactions, to purify themselves. So the whole idea was for them to go to the jungle for Kshatriya, so they could practice the art, the martial art and different techniques and hunt. But then they did lots of penances to get rid of that sins that caused that action. So the idea was that things have to be done in a restricted way. Even in Grihastha lives, the sense enjoyment, if that is done in a restricted way of doing things, then person can gradually progress towards spirituality. So we'll move on to the next point, that which, of course, Prithviraj is asking, that how a person with previous sinful action can progress. So we'll see from one verse, which is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 24.60. When the devotee somehow or other always remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead anywhere and everywhere, Lord Hari takes away life's 4 miserable conditions. So the 4 miserable conditions are due to the 4 sinful activities. So, but what are those 4 sinful activities? So basically those are summarized as illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating, which is not allowed in any of the Varnashrama system. And once when somebody surrenders to Krishna, then he is saying, Aham tvam sarvasya papebhyo mokshashyami ma suchaha. So he is saying, I will protect you from all sinful reactions, do not fear. And then what are the other ways that a person from previous sinful actions can progress? So we'll see from one more verse. That is from Bhagavad Gita 3.13. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. And so we understand that from this verse, he instruct that offer everything that you eat to me, but what to offer? So that he is mentions in verse 9.26, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. So if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, and water, I will accept. He is not saying anything like meat, eggs, or a non-vegetarian item. So one should find out what the Lord desires. And if we love someone, we give them what they are asking for, what they like. So Lord is clearly saying that you offer me Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. And then only he will accept it. So, and some things like vegetables, grains, fruits, milk, and water, these are proper food for human beings, and these are prescribed by Lord Krishna himself. So from this, we understand that it is important to eat vegetarian food, and of course, at the same time, not just eat vegetarian food, but to eat prasad, because we need to offer it to Krishna. And that way, all the contamination is nullified and we can get purified by eating those prasad. So that's one way. And then we'll see a few more other ways, like how previous sinful actions can be dangerous. We have seen in the purport that it can be dangerous and how it can be uprooted completely. So we'll do a little bit of deeper study in this space. So in Padma Purana, it's mentioned that how sinful actions can be dangerous. Yes, people can say, oh, I was doing sinful action, but it was past, right? So how that can be dangerous? So it can be dangerous if somebody has not taken up the Krishna consciousness. As Prabhupada says, when somebody takes up the Krishna consciousness, then the auspiciousness begins. So in Padma Purana, for those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified in stalk or in form of seed, gradually vanishes. So we have sinful desires in the form of seed, and that makes someone to do sinful actions. And because of those sinful actions, one gets sinful reactions that are fructified, and then they also get sinful reactions that are in stalk. And the cycle doesn't just stop there. It continues because we have sinful tendencies that somebody has developed, and that keeps going on with the sinful desires. And the cycle of doing sinful actions continues. So it is like, I will read what Prabhupada has mentioned in the purport, which is quite interesting. So in the Padma Purana, the man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. So those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and form of sinful reactions. So for instance, when the seed of, so it's given a very good example, that when a seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, then it flowers and bears fruit. And when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by the person who has sown the seed of the tree. So similarly, when a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. And there are different stages, which we have just discussed. So sinful action may stop there within the individual, but the result of the fruit of the sinful action are still to be given to that person. And there are sins which are in the form of seed, which we saw in the form of desire, and that are already fructified, which the people are suffering. We can see that in the pain and distress. And of course, there are in the stalk, which makes that person to do those sinful activities again and again. So those who engage in devotional service, the sinful reactions and these sinful tendencies all gets purified. That is the power of devotional service. that's the power of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become completely purified. So we'll see the same thing, which is repeated in different places to understand the sin cycle in a much better way. So this is mentioned in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam 10.88.8. So where sin cycle is mentioned, why, first of all, why sin starts? It starts any sinful action or activities or desires. It develops because of avidya, ignorance. And then that ignorance leads to sinful desires because people don't know what is good, what is bad to do. So they develop those sinful desires. And because they have developed that sinful desires, then it leads to those sinful actions. And because of those actions, we get unmanifested and manifested reactions, prarabdha and aprarabdha. And of course, then we go through a suffering because of prarabdha. And what aprarabdha does is it develops sinful tendencies, the kutam in us. And because of that, the sinful desires get stronger and stronger. And the sinful action continues. And the cycle of sinful action continues. And it gets very difficult for the person to get out of that entanglement, get out of this sin cycle. And this is the worry of Prithu Maharaj, that once somebody has done a sinful action, is there any hope for them? How they can progress? So let's see. This is just one example to explain this in a better form, that if somebody is alcoholic, because of ignorance, they don't know what is good, what is bad. They start drinking, and then they develop desire that, oh, they want to drink. And because of that, they drink. That is the action they do, the sinful action. They get a reaction, lots of different reactions somebody could get. They get sick, they lose lots of money over it, lots of things. And then, of course, they do immediate suffering. And as an unmanifested reaction, slowly their health is deteriorating, which is not manifested to them yet. It gets damaged. And because of that, they get the sinful tendency, which is they develop addiction. And as long as they have the addiction, their desires will be stronger and stronger, and they will continue to drink. And it gets very difficult for them to lose that drinking habit. So that's how people get entangled in sinful action. Now, let's go to the next one. That a lot of people, you have heard that they do atonement. So with atonement, can it remove all the reactions? Because we are atoning for it. We are atoning for our sins. So the answer is that yes, it can, but only to a certain level. Where does it impact? It impacts on our prarabdha. So some of the sufferings that are manifested reactions can be reduced because that person has realized that, oh, they have done some sinful action. But their unmanifested reactions, their sinful tendencies, their sinful desires doesn't get destroyed just with atonement. And that is why a lot of time people feel sorry for what they have done, but they continue to do the same actions because they are just helpless. They just can't get rid of it. So what is the best way? How we can just get out of this sin cycle? So the best way is devotional service, which Prabhupada has already explained. That's how the auspiciousness begins. So Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he has explained how a Vaishnava is relieved from all karmic reactions due to his or her pure devotional service, including those that have not yet begun, that is to manifest, or prarabdha, those that are just about to manifest, kutam, and those that are barely manifesting, bija, and those that have manifested fully, prarabdha. So as a lotus gradually loses its many petals, so a person who takes the shelter of devotional service all his karmic reactions get destroyed. So bhakti is like klesha agni. So pure devotional service, klesha agni, klesha, suffering, agni, fire. So that suffering gets burnt with pure devotional service. And then one can get immediate relief from all kind of material distress. So how bhakti can remove? How it can remove all the suffering? So it works on the level of ignorance, first of all, here. So we have seen in verse number 10.10 in Bhagavad Gita, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So Krishna gives the knowledge from within by which ignorance goes away. He gives from outside through spiritual teachers. So the translation of that verse is, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So if our ignorance is removed, then of course, it will not further down to sinful desires. And actions, just like fire burns everything, the fire of bhakti burns all sinful reactions. And desires is redirected to desire to serve Krishna. So when somebody performs devotional service, it eradicates their aprarabdha, it counteracts their kutam, that is sinful tendencies. It removes, nullifies their desires because, of course, their ignorance is removed, and it also eradicates their manifested reactions and uproots the entire ignorance. So that's how somebody can just get out of the sinful reactions with the blessings from the Lord by doing devotional service. So all causes eradicates, no sins, so no suffering. This can be understood from there is a very nice story of a king who gives seed to many people, that the person who grows the lot of like very healthy plant out of these seeds, they will only become the king. So a lot of people who got the seeds, they came up with very nice healthy plant. One person did not come. He said, oh, the seed was not good enough. So king announced that the person who failed is actually going to be the king. Everybody was surprised that how that can happen. So then king mentioned, because you all others were cheaters. The seed, the type of seed he gave to everybody, nobody could grow anything. So the person who actually sounded like a failure was a truthful person. So why nobody could grow anything? Because he boiled the seed. So if you boil the seed, it can't sprout. So same thing happens. So if our sinful desires, the seed is removed, then it can't lead further to any sinful action or reactions. So that's what bhakti does. It removes the sinful desires. So there is one express yoga ladder also explained that how somebody, so as Prithu Maharaj inquired in this verse, that could such person whose only aim is sense gratification be blessed with any good fortune? So we saw in the sin cycle that how previous sinful actions, reactions, desires all get removed by pure devotional service. So we'll hear the more detailed answer by Sanat Kumar in the next few verses, you will see. So, but if there he is mentioned in, I think, 4.22.20, where he answers that unflinching faith in the Lord automatically cleanses the lusty desires from the core of the heart. And Prabhupada answers in the purport that when activities are changed to devotional service, one auspicious lives begin. So the powerful tool to free us from entanglement of the sense gratification or the sin cycle is one more thing, and that is the association of pure devotees. So with association of pure devotees, one can get into the sadhana bhakti, then through to the bhava bhakti, and then they can go further all the way to prema bhakti. As we saw in the examples, there are many examples in scriptures to explain this. So we saw that Narada Muni, he got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord by associating with different sages. So through that association, he got that mercy. And there's also a very nice story of a Mrigarari hunter in this context. So I will end this session just by mentioning that story. So there were once Narad Muni was traveling and he was going through a forest, and he saw that there was half dead, half alive animals, and he felt a lot of pain. Oh, so much of suffering. Who is causing so much pain? He searched everywhere. Who is doing this such a sinful activity, such a sinful action? And he searched everywhere, but he couldn't find anyone. And then he found a hunter. It was a Mrigarari hunter. So the hunter who was killing these animals, and he said, oh, this is how he has been taught in traditions, to just leave animal half killed. But he said, that is so much of suffering. But he said, I feel a lot of joy. This is how I learned from his parents. So Narad Muni explained him the consequences of killing animals like this. And hunter was submissive and said, oh, how can I save myself from these sinful reactions, from all these sinful activities that he has been doing? So he said, first, stop this immediately. Start devotional life. Chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Chant the glories of the Lord. So hunter asked about, what about his livelihood? How will he earn? Because this was the only income source of his income. So he said, don't worry. I will manage this for you. So first thing, what happened here in this case? He was doing sinful activities, but he surrendered to a pure devotee, and he listened also to the pure devotee. And then what happened? Transformation happens. So hunter became a devotee, and the news spread. So his issue of not getting food and all of that also got solved, because in those days, sadhu, a lot of people used to come and donate food to sadhu. So it got spread that, oh, that hunter has become sadhu now. So let's go and give them food, grain, milk. So he was getting everything, and he could easily do his bhajan. And one day, to see the level of transformation that the bhakti did to this person, is that one day Narad Muni and Parvata Muni were traveling, and Narad Muni said, oh, let's go and meet my disciple. So hunter saw the Narad Muni from far distance, and he ran away towards them. But all of a sudden he stopped. And what he started doing? He started removing all these ants around, so that he doesn't hurt even the ants. So see the level of transformation, that before, how he used to keep the animals half dead, and now he's even worried about ants. So that was the level of compassion he has developed through bhakti. So Parvat Muni said, was amazed that he has changed so much, he has transformed so much. He does not even want to kill lowly ants on the grounds. And Narad Muni said that it's not surprising. Whoever chants Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he develops all good habits and gets all the good qualities of Devatas. So he would never want to give pain to anyone else now. So Parvat Muni asked, how is it that it got transformed? So Narad Muni said he was sinful, but was also a hypocrite. So he was simple. So as soon as he understood that he was doing wrong, so his avidya was removed, then he admitted his mistake, and then he surrendered. And because of avidya, he surrendered, he stopped the sinful action. And with slowly, as we saw in the sin cycle, that it worked on his desires, on his kutam, on his reactions, and slowly he could come out of it. So that's how even a good fortune can come to a person who are entangled in sense gratification, if they surrender to the Lord and the pure devotees and take up the path of pure devotional service. Thank you, everyone. If anybody have any questions or comments, I can take that.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Such beautiful class how this text 13 explains, and you made us to understand how the sin cycle works through the examples, the last examples of
Hare
Gaya.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, you can hear you.
So how this sin cycle is stopped? Only by the surrendering process to the spiritual master. So this is our good example for all of us to understand. Even the sinful previous life can be eradicated only by the devotional service. And that is also related to our today's Srila Prabhupada Lila Amrita. The same reflection is coming from there. How this Arya Samaj was just against Srila Prabhupada philosophy. But Srila Prabhupada had to struggle so much to make them understand what is the real goal of life. Only by devotional service, things can be sorted out. There is no other way. There is no other way. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much for your wonderful session today. As usual, the presentation was flawless and so much detail and so much of effort and interest you have put in terms of presenting it. It was so everything so clear, especially that sin cycle, and especially I like that shortcut yoga ladder. What you presented, unlike the other yoga ladder, this was so nice. So I just wanted your advice or guidance on one aspect. So in that, if you're practicing the shortcut yoga ladder, if you get the association of the pure devotee and the mercy of the pure devotee, and I'm practicing that. You also mentioned that how the sin can be eradicated by for example, by offering the food. But I'm doing it, but I'm doing it in a ritualistic manner. I know it is good for me. So I'm doing it, but really I don't have any devotion or probably faith as well. I'm doing those activities in the devotional activities in the ritualistic manner, whether it's chanting or offering the food to the Lord. So, can I hope for any benefit in that, or that's what I just wanted your advice on that. And of course, how I can progress from that stage. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure you'll have a lot of faith more than me. But what I understand is that initially we may not see a lot of results, and everything starts from sadhana bhakti, and that is part of the sadhana bhakti where we do a lot of things dutifully. It doesn't come to us automatically. So it's like a medicine. When a doctor prescribes us a medicine, we may not have complete faith in that medicine. We may take it without having that faith, but regardless of our faith, because we are taking that medicine, it will gradually improve our health. And when our health improves, then our faith will automatically increases. So it works like this, that if slowly and gradually we will progress, and once we have progress, then things come spontaneously. So initially it is done on a dutiful level, on a sadhana level. That's what the sadhana bhaktas are. Prabhupada is very merciful that he has let all of us called ourselves devotees, but in fact most of us are practicing devotees. But we are trying to aim towards pure devotional service, where everything comes spontaneous. But it takes a level of practice and determination to continue on this path, and then slowly it will improve us. I think Prabhupada has also mentioned one example of jaundice, that somebody has jaundice, it can't taste the sweetness, but because they have that disease, but slowly, if they keep taking the medicine, and when they have recovered, then they can finally taste the sweetness. So slowly, when we get purified through our sadhana bhakti, then we will be able to spontaneously do it and also see it, see the transformation in ourselves and our progress. Even in our progress, possibly we can understand. I don't know whether you can hear the noise. Sorry about that. So it's basically sadhana bhakti is important, even though initially people should not get discouraged that, oh, we are not suddenly seeing much magic immediately, because as long as we are continuing it, eventually that mood and realizations will come.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful questions. Many would have that same questions.
Hare Krishna Mataji, nice class, especially presentation and details about that sinful action and the eradication. And this is very hopeful class for me. So just I'm thinking, if Mrigari can be a sadhu, so we can be a devotee one day,
Yes.
isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mother, we can see the train is coming. We can see the light.
Yes.
So only is a matter of time when the train reaches to station. So it is a practice and the outlook, how we present ourselves and practice ourselves in that direction to attract the light of the train. So when the light of train comes near, everything will be fruitful. And that is how this Brigari has transformed such a pure, such a good devotee in the presence of Narad Muni. So hope is there. So not to be discouraged, keep doing the sadhana. One day, the fruit will be ripened. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for the very nice class. So it appears there is no other question from other people. So we can end the class now. Thank you very much once again for your nice class.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I ask one question?
Yes, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranams.
Hi, Prabhuji.
Mataji, if someone stops this process in middle, what is the story, Mataji?
If they stop, then somehow or other, they may get a mercy to associate with devotees again and start the process again. But unless they don't start the process again, they have checked their spiritual progress, because they can't progress without doing the proper regulative principle of the sadhana bhakti. There are very once in a while, there are very rare souls who just get perfect through mercy, but most of the people have to purify themselves through sadhana bhakti. So it's very important for us to do our rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, and eat prasad. So these are main basics, rules and of sadhana bhakti that needs to be done for us to advance further and further. But what many people do is to have those enthusiasm, they associate with pure devotees. So when lots of Maharaj comes, pure devotees visits, we should take their association. So then somehow we develop that desire and that enthusiasm in bhakti more and more and stay in this process. But yes, if somebody has left the process, then I think the only hope for them is to come back in this process or come back in their bhakti or their devotional practice.
Can I add here?
Yes, Madaji, please add.
Lord Krishna will send some devotee to take him up
Yes.
for association, because Krishna is so merciful. He is Dinabandhu.
Yes, yeah. Krishna never leaves anyone, so he will give that devotee opportunities that somehow he comes back to him again, comes back to the right track.
Yeah, he will make arrangement.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, just on this point, Just I want to make, please allow me to speak.
Yes, please, Prabhuji.
Yes. In fact, in spiritual or devotional service, nothing is lost, as in 240 it is clearly mentioned. Our Sri Krishna is told, Nehavi Pramana Shasti Prattavai Bhaktita. At least who has started the process, he will have a human life, no doubt about that, where he can start again. And this is also mentioned, and also it is mentioned that in if I can recollect, it's 641, where Arjuna has asked Sri Krishna that what will happen to those yogi who has left it in between and could not complete it in their life. And it starts with, if I can recollect properly, it is Krita Karma Loka, sorry, something like that, that whatever he has done, Shashwati, okay, just 1 second. I have Bhagavad Gita just before me, 641. 1 second. It says Krita Karma. Yes, it says that Prapto Punno Kritang Lokan Ushita Shashwati Shama Shuchinang Simotang Vihe Yogo. It says that unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of living and pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous person or into a family of rich aristocracy. That means he gets an opportunity again to start from there. So he's not lost. His devotional service is never lost. He gets the opportunity to start from there again. But one can complete it. That is always good. If you can complete it in this life, then because it is delayed, the whole process is delayed a bit.
Yes,
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That's very wonderful point. And in next life, there is no guarantee that even if you are born in a devotee family or a very rich family, that the person will take path of the devotional service. They will be given opportunities, but that person will use their free will to take the path and progress. There is no guarantee that is on that individual, because it all is on our free will, that how much one wants to progress. So of course, Krishna will make sure that that person gets the opportunity either in this life. If that person dies, then of course they will get better birth, because nothing is lost. They will start from there. If they had 99 points, then for that 1%, they will take birth again, and they will, if they complete that 1%, 100%, they can perfect and go back. And a lot of times Krishna gives a special mercy as well. So yeah, wonderful points of the getting birth in devotee family or rich family, to give them enough opportunities to again start the process.
Yes, the unfinished tasks.
Yes. Does that all answer your question, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, very well, nicely answered, Mataji. Thank you very much, Mataji.
We can end this class here. Patarubhascha kripa sindhubho eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavindu ki jai. Har Grace Ananglata Mataji ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.